Hey everyone, it's Derrick Broze here with the Conscious Resistance Network. I'm in downtown Houston, Texas. You can see behind me massive protests happening at City Hall and people all over the streets behind me. There's probably 3,000 at least, I would estimate, maybe more people here. This is Saturday morning as part of the No Kings Day. Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., Donald Trump is doing his military parade. Today, we're going to try to talk to attendees and protesters to see why they're here, what they're excited about, what they're concerned about, and there's even some counter-protesters that we're going to try to talk to as well, so stay tuned. And I'm talking to
SPZK.
Okay, so let me show what you got here. You got your shield, which is pretty cool. Tell me why you're here.
I'm here because my wife is Latina, and so I have to come out here and protest because, you know, we all live here, so.
So I'm guessing you're not supportive of Trump's immigration deportations and stuff.
Oh, absolutely not. No. So yeah, no.
And do you support the general like No Kings message, kind of like trying to draw attention away from the military parade, stuff like that too?
Since 1619. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on, you know, some of the critics that I've talked to, who are people who are critical of today's actions? They say that this is, you know, being funded by big Democratic donors, groups tied to the DNC. Are you being paid by the DNC, or are you just here individually?
I'm not being paid by anybody whatsoever. I'm here because we shouldn't have to keep fighting for this kind of thing. We're fighting for things that, you know, my ancestors had to fight for decades ago, and that we're all out here for this kind of thing. This is ridiculous. So,
last question. Do you think the solution to trying to solve these problems is going to come through the ballot box by voting?
Yes, that was the solution that should have happened in November. Too many people didn't take the threat seriously. Well, I'm hoping that changes because, as you can see right now, both parties are not the same. One is not trying to be fascist, the other is. So the other one is trying to enable fascism and whatnot. So,
what do you think about the idea that both parties do, though, support surveillance, war, Israel, things like that? You know, so there are some ways that the parties are similar. What do you say to that?
What I would say to that is that if you truly believe that both parties are similar in the same way, let me tell you something. Republicans always get what they want because their voters show up all the time. They don't have to be told to show up. When the end goal is white supremacy, that is what causes them to show up. If you want something like surveillance done away with, which student debts done away with and everything else, you have to show up all the time. You can't just show up once to vote and think that takes care of the entire situation altogether. So, yeah, if you want stuff like that done away with, you have to consistently show up. They need the backup necessary to know that this kind of thing is popular.
Okay, one last question. What would you say to the folks on the folks on the other side, like the Trump supporters? What would your message be to them? Like, and not necessarily fuck off, but like, how would you try to reach them if you had an opportunity to?
I have no desire to reach white supremacists.
My name is Gustavo Fring, but you can call me Gus. Yeah.
And Gus, I'm checking out your sign. There's no left versus right, only up versus down. What does that mean to you?
To me, the ruling class has always been divisive and trying to tear apart the working class and the people as a whole. And because of that, they always come out on top. But if we just unite together, there is no left and right. We just one people, one working class against the ruling class. We can truly be a strong enough force to actually create change. Instead of fighting for individual movements, we can collectively work as one class against one ruling class to wage only one war that is worth waging, which is the class war. It's just, to get rid of the ruling class, then that is the only goal.
So do you think, like, along with that like, falling for the idea that the Democrats or the Republicans are going to save us, would you buy into that, or do you think that's another false solution?
It is another false solution. They do that because they give us an illusion of choice, where we think it's part of the democratic processes, where we get to choose already selected officials who don't really stand up for the constituents, right? So we just need to convince a lot more people, a lot more American folks that there is no left and right. There's only one party. It's the ruling class, and there's only the working class working for them.
So some of the critics of today They say that today that these marches are organized around the country are being organized by groups that have ties to the Democratic National Committee. Would you say that that is something you're connected to, or you're just here for generally supporting the idea of no kings, kind of resisting Trump's agenda? Because basically the right is saying everybody here is just a puppet of the Democratic Party, this sort of thing. What do you think about that criticism?
It's a very popular phrase. Every accusation is a confession. We've seen it multiple times. Whenever in the 2020 protests, we see paid actors on behalf of the state causing chaos, causing a ruckus, and then having obviously the media is already on a certain someone's side, so they can easily portray agitators as the main body of protesters, and then say that the entire cause is based off of violence and based off of the wrong ideas, even though they're well-meaning people in the group who don't have any control over outside agitators. Yeah.
So they try to paint everybody with this brush of being agitators or paid by the Democrats or something. So if you recognize that both parties are kind of controlled in these different ways by the ruling class, what sort of solutions would you suggest to somebody at home who agrees with you?
It's very hard to convince the average American, because it requires a lot of experience and a lot of upfront education regarding a lot of the issues that other people are protesting about. When one group protests about an issue, it's often a thing where another part of the country doesn't know what they even mean or talk about. So it's hard to connect to the American people as a whole. But to create, it's already a thing on the right where people understand that even the rich are ripping them off. The left have been saying that for decades. It's almost about time when the American people are coalescing in their ideas and their movements to truly wake up to see that this country is being exploited by the rich, So
then the idea is kind of to unite the people behind that idea. Is that what you're saying? Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thanks for your time, man. All right, we are here, the corner of Smith and Walker Street, downtown Houston. And the thousands of people are leaving City Hall and now spilling out into the streets. You can see they're starting to march. And there were some Proud Boys out here earlier, standing on the same corner I'm standing. They are not here anymore. And I'm hoping we can avoid any kind of conflicts. But there are definitely thousands and thousands of people here. One of the biggest marches I've seen in Houston in quite some time, probably since the George Floyd protests. Can you state your name?
Stuart.
Stuart, what brought you here today for the No Kings March?
A number of issues. Most recently, the immigration issues with the deportations, but then there's also the science funding and the trans rights issues, and all of it kind of works together in my mind. But
so generally kind of against a lot of Trump's policies?
Yes.
So one of the criticisms I've been seeing online from the right side of things is that a lot of the marches today are being organized by big groups that have ties to the DNC. What are your thoughts on that? Would you say this is as some of the right would claim, is an operation of the DNC, or do you think it's more organic, or just a Democratic Party thing? How do you kind of see that?
I don't see much stock in that particular narrative. I know for myself, I looked it up online and found where people were gathering, but without contacting the DNC or anything. So,
but it doesn't deter you that a lot of the groups that are organizing are kind of to me it's sort of grassroots, not grassroots, but somewhat astroturfing, ACLU, Bernie, stuff like that. But do you think that affects the message? Because I think what the right is trying to say, that means this whole thing is disingenuous and everybody here, just that sort of narrative. They're trying to downplay the concerns.
No, I don't think that's really how this works. You wouldn't get this many people here if a decent chunk of them didn't actually care about what's going on.
You haven't received a check from George Soros?
No, I have not.
So on another issue here, what are your thoughts on those who maybe support Trump's policies in terms of deportation, but don't necessarily like the way that's happening. Like, let's say, like kind of more of a center-right person who generally supports deportations but doesn't even agree with the way Trump's doing it. Do you think there's some chance for common ground there, or is this just completely divisive issue?
I mean, I can see the rationale there. I think there could be some ground for common ground in terms of, we all want a secure country and all that. I tend to lean on the perspective that, immigrants are good for the country, and so you want to make it easier for them to come in legally. And what I hear a lot from the center right is, it's primarily about illegal immigrants and all that. And I get that narrative, but I also think that if you want to prevent illegal immigration, you want to make legal immigration easier.
So you would say that the current immigration system's not working?
Correct.
So maybe for you, one solution would be not an authoritarian police state, but try to actually fix the immigration system?
I think that's pretty much the only solution.
Yeah. Does this ass make my country look small? Okay, we're talking with Andy. Andy, what brought you here today?
Come out to support the group here in protesting the current administration and all the policies.
Is it the deportation policy specifically, or is there any others that really, stick out to you?
Yeah, that's a big one. There are a number of them. Also, the corruption that we're seeing, the slashing of university funding, and the list goes on and on.
Yeah. So there's going to be folks watching this who have a range of perspectives, some who will be in agreement with you, and others who might support Trump's policies more than either of us would. Their typical argument is that, the immigration system's broken. There's people who have been coming in, and some of them are committing violent crimes. What are your thoughts to them? Well, how would you respond to them? Do you think the current immigration system's working, or do you think it does need to be, approached in a different way?
I do think we need to make some changes to the immigration system. I think there's been political stalemate for decades that has prevented that from happening. And I think now just switching gears and mass deporting people without due process is not the right answer.
Yeah. And your view, how could we approach it differently?
Well, first of all, it needs to be done in a humane way, not separating families. The administration has lied to us about deporting violent criminals, but they're catching up, everyday workers, people who are doing important jobs in this, in our community, in our society, people who are paying taxes and following the laws. So I don't support that. What
would you say to some of the hardliners out there that say, they came illegally, that's a crime, and that's enough for me, deport them?
Well, I just disagree with that.
Yeah. Do you think there's any chance for us to find common ground between such disparate viewpoints?
I hope so. It feels harder now than it's ever felt to me in my lifetime. We do need to try to get back to finding some common ground and some compromise. But right now it feels like the conversations are very broken.
And are you a Democratic voter, or lifelong Democrat, or how do you usually vote?
Pretty much a lifelong Democrat. I mean, I align myself with the values of the Democratic Party.
Thank you. Okay, I'm here with Mark. Mark, what brought you here? Why are you here today?
I brought here to try to open the eyes to the whole nation on what's going on and what are they trying to do to the whole nation. They're trying to tie us down.
Is your main concern with the Trump administration related to the deportation?
Deportation has a lot to do with us. My wife came here illegally 20 years ago. We got all her papers fixed. But this land was formed by immigrants. I mean, everywhere. At one time, this was Mexico. California was Mexico. And now, when I see these signs telling us to go back to your own land, I mean, this was stolen land.
What would you say to some of the critics on the right who they see people waving Mexican flags and they get scared? They're trying to turn it back to Mexico. Are you here to try to turn Texas back to Mexico?
I respect all flags. I respect the Mexican flag. I am a Mexican-American, U.S. citizen. Earlier today, I saw an American flag on the floor, and I picked it up and I put it into the ground, stand it up straight, because I don't think they should disrespect no flag.
But your mission here isn't to try to turn Texas back into Mexico. And as silly as that might sound, I asked that because you may have seen there's some right-wingers, some Trump supporters who saw the flags waving in L.A. during the protests, and they're scared or something.
I don't want to turn this back into Mexico. I just want to let you know where my heritage came from. And I'm very proud of it.
And you should have that right here because, like you said, America's a nation of immigrants, right? Do you think that there's any chance for common ground with the people who do support Trump's deportations, or is it just too divided right now?
You know, it's very divided when they're going to schools, when people are afraid to go to schools, restaurants, to work. I mean, that's putting fear in the country, and that's kind of like official oppression. We shouldn't be intimidated by somebody in law enforcement.
Do you support the deportation of people who've committed crimes, like violent crimes?
Oh, yes, 100%. If somebody's here and they rape people, they kill people, they'll sell drugs, they're stealing, yes, deport them. But when you got the people here trying to work, to support their family, to come to them from another country to make themselves a better life, but then you got somebody here trying to deport them for trying to better their lives.
Yeah. How would you respond to some of the Trump supporters who are maybe a little bit more on the other side, and they say, well, if you came here illegally, you committed a crime, deport them. I don't care if they're good, hardworking, tax-paying person.
Again, look at Trump's hotels. Look at his restaurants. I mean, he has Hispanic people or Latino people working for him. And I'm sure somewhere in there's somebody illegal. I mean, look at Melania Trump. At one time, she came here.
So you think it's just an unfair treatment? Let's just imagine you were president for a day. How would you handle the folks that did come here illegally but are now, just living their lives? Do you think they should be given amnesty or citizenship and then just focus on the people committing crimes?
I think they should try to get some kind of immigration reform to move the country forward instead of back. We don't need to go back in time. We need to move forward. If we start documenting who's here, who's not here, then we'll know who's here.
What are your thoughts on Trump's idea that we should have a biometric entry and exit system where everybody's hands or face are scanned when they come in the country? That's one of his solutions to fix immigration. Do you think that would help or be a bad step?
I don't think it would help. I think it would cause a lot more confusion in the borders. Sometimes it takes hours to come from the Mexican border to the United States.
It could also lead to them tracking us everywhere we go, huh?
Right.
So we're here, still downtown. The marchers just went around a few blocks and came back. There's definitely, I would say, 5,000 people here at least. So far, there's been no reported incidents of violence. I asked some of the cops. They said they haven't seen or heard anything. People are returning back to City Hall, and it's probably going to peter out. I highly doubt there's going to be any violence after this. But I wanted to take a moment just to wrap up this report. And, I know many of you in my audience are the kind of people that are really afraid of this march and thought that there's going to be riots and looting everywhere. And I don't know what's going on in other cities, but I know that's not happening in Houston. And my guess is it's not happening in the vast majority of the cities that are protesting. Because, yes, this movement is being organized by groups like the ACLU and Bernie and other groups connected to George Soros. That is true. That is accurate. But that doesn't mean the average person on the street is getting paid by George Soros or that they don't have legitimate concerns. For me, I'm here as a journalist. I definitely don't support Trump's agenda, but I also don't support a lot of the things that people here support. There's Democratic politicians giving speeches, encouraging people to vote. You guys know my work. I don't support voting. I definitely don't support voting for Democrats. But still, I can come here and try to find common ground with the people who are against Trump's deportation, the militarism, and are against the military parade and stuff like that. And as I've said before, this is just like during COVID 1984 when I was in this same park marching against the COVID lockdowns with Trump supporters, MAGA supporters, Blue Lives Matter flag waving people, letting them know, I don't agree with you on a lot, but I'll stand with you against the lockdowns. And that's kind of how I see these movements. So I just want to encourage everybody out there, if you've been listening to channels the last week who've been telling you that civil war was starting today and that rioting and looting was going to be everywhere, stop following them. Stop listening to them. Stop giving them your money. Start supporting better sources of information like myself, T-Lab, Whitney Webb, so many others out there that are bringing you factual information. There's people who are monetizing and making money off your fear and making you think it's the end of the world. I encourage you to actually get out from behind the computer screen, come out to the real world, talk to people, especially people you don't agree with, and recognize that we're not on the brink of civil war. The powers that wish they were, they definitely would like us to be, and they're going to try to create that. But we shouldn't feed into that by saying civil war, riots everywhere. Don't feed into their propaganda. Don't play into it. We have to be stronger than that, especially because things are going to get tougher as we go along. So I hope you guys enjoyed these interviews and have learned from some different perspectives. And I'll be at the next one. Until next time, remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free. Peace.
Since 2012, the Conscious Resistance Network has been an independent media organization focused on empowering individuals through education, philosophy, health, and community organizing. We work to create a world where corporate and state power do not rule over the lives of free human beings. Our motto is leading by example and helping others in their pursuit of freedom. Visit theconsciousresistance.com to find our articles, documentaries, interviews, podcasts, books, and more. Remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free.